The problem is people don't buy what they need, they buy what they want. So all I have to do is connect the dots. Like if a need is a walk-in bathtub, how do I get somebody to want it?
Hello and welcome to Pillars of Wealth Creation, where we talk about creating financial success with a special focus on business and real estate. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. Now, let's get to it. Hello and welcome back to Pillars of Wealth Creation. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. With me, I am super excited to have Rylee Meek on the show. Rylee, how are you doing?
Good, Todd. Great to be here, brother.
Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you joining. And I started listening to the King's Council, which is a podcast that you're the host of. Maybe like 6-8 months ago. I've really enjoyed the podcast, really enjoyed kind of your style. And I think I heard you on a couple other podcasts. I think I listened to Entrepreneur on Fire.
Okay.
And I think you were on that one potentially, right?
Yes.
That's
JLD.
Right. Okay. Yeah. JLD. So that was good. Anyway, so, and I know you're a Minnesota guy, which myself as well. So I thought, man, it'd be great to have Rylee on the show, talk a little bit about what you're doing. And you've done some amazing things throughout your entrepreneur journey and still doing amazing thing right now. So excited to have you on, man.
Yeah, well, had I known we were so close, bro, we should have just did this in person.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not set up to do it. Like, I need to get the equipment to be able to just like sit down with people and have that conversation.
Well, then we'd have to put pants on too. So
yeah, right, exactly. Good stuff. So I got to give a little bit of background about Rylee and Rylee Meek. Like I said, he's the host of the King's Council podcast, founder of King's Council Coaching. The King's Council empowers individuals to discover, develop, and deploy their God-given talents and abilities through a proven framework of success, utilizing the 5 power pillars of life. And over the last decade, Rylee has consulted with companies and entrepreneurs to scale their businesses and wealth through the social dynamic selling system. And we'll dive in a little bit on that, what that means. But he's been able to grow his companies to 7 and 8 figures within the first year on 8 different companies. So that's super impressive, generating over 9 figures of revenue, implementing his proven methods and strategies. So, man, there's so much more, but I think it's way more exciting if you actually tell your story a little bit. So why don't you dive in and tell our listeners a bit about your background, and then we'll get to what you're doing today.
Sure, man. I could definitely do that. Although I've heard this story 1,000 times. So.
Yeah, but we haven't. So it's exciting for us. So, sure. I get the same thing. I'm on somebody's podcast. I'm like, I've told this story like 50 times. Can I just tell something different? you just got to tell your story. That's it.
Yeah. The fun part is throwing things in, like see how many times I can say meow during this. So you guys count. No.
Okay.
Now let's get down to business here. So no. Anyways, man, yeah, I grew up in, so I live here in the Minneapolis metro now, south of the metro there on Prior Lake. But I grew up in South Dakota, and South Dakota is a great place to be from. There's not a whole lot going on there now. So literally the day I graduated high school, I had driven up here to Minnesota, really just to be around more people. Again, South Dakota is great. I grew up in a town of about 900 people. So I got to witness a lot of things that I didn't want to do, right? Like I wasn't going to be a farmer. There weren't a lot of entrepreneurs there, or really even just
opportunities. Other than the farmers.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, they're some of the hardest workers, but dude, I one time went calving with my grandpa and watched him pull a calf out of what, and I was like, I ain't doing this, grandpa. So I quickly realized I was not going to be that farm boy.
I've never heard of calving before.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, we do that. Cow tipping sometimes if we're real lucky. So. And the winters there, it's like negative 30 degrees. Of course, that's the only time cows want to have babies, I guess. So
with the 70-mile-an-hour wind.
Yeah, it was
Dakota.
crazy. So quickly knew what I didn't want to do, but I didn't really know where to look. And thank God this would have been, I took my very, very first job. It was been the year 2000. I worked at a small town gas station. I think I was 15 at the time, and I worked one 8-hour shift. Minimum wage in South Dakota was $5.15 an hour, and I worked one 8-hour shift. I did the math in my head, and I thought, there's no way I'm doing that again. So my first day was my last day of quote unquote on the job. And what the reason being, it wasn't that, I value hard work very much so. But I knew even at that age, like it didn't make sense for me that I allowed somebody to put a dollar amount on my time. Like that's what, it wasn't against them by any means, but I knew I was more valuable than that. And it wasn't even in an arrogant way, because as a young punk kid, we can be arrogant, but it was more of like, there's got to be a better way. And so one of the things I did then that I still do to this day is if I wanted something in life, I started to look for the fruit in other people's lives that I wanted. And I just went to be around them. And there wasn't really anybody in my local circle there in South Dakota. So I ended up joining this network marketing company called Herbalife, still $1 billion company today. But the nearest meetings and things that I could go to were up here in Minnesota. So at the age of 15, once a month, I started to drive up on the weekends and spend a full day, called these success training seminars, just to be around those like-mindseted people. And I say mindseted, Todd, because it doesn't do us any good to be around people that are just like-minded. Because if we all think the same thing about everything, what good are we to each other?
Right.
It may be easy to have, a beer with somebody, but if I want to be around people that are going to push me or be that catalyst to continue to grow. And the mindset that I have was I was going to either progress or regress. And I was choosing to progress until the day that I die. And so I wanted to be around those that wanted that as well.
Did you say you were 15 when this was happening?
Yeah. When I first started to dive into network marketing, and I drank the Kool-Aid hard. And as much as it gets a bad rap, and a lot of companies that industry do, I freaking loved it. And I still love it if it's done correctly, but it's not necessarily like what it's always pitched to be. Like, you don't just join and think you're going to make money.
I think that's the biggest negative, right, about network marketing is I don't know if all of them, right, but a lot of them are like sold of, hey, join. First of all, it's that pitch, like it's that, hey, come on board and you're going to make $1 million in 3 days.
Right.
Like, join us now because this is the best product ever. And people are like, what's going on here? Come on. And
exactly,
like you said, it can be a good system. It can be good,
but it takes work.
Yeah, but it actually takes work, just like any entrepreneur journey. Right.
And that's how they're coming at it wrong from out the gates. Like, just join and you're going to make that mailbox money. It's like, no, don't pitch that. Then you're just getting a bunch of losers that don't work. Pitch, this is going to be hard work. Do you want to work hard too? Because I only want to work with people that don't want to work hard. Like, it's just a shift from the beginning. Anyways, we can go down a huge rabbit hole on that, man. But yeah, that young age, that's what I was intending on doing. Hence I got myself around those type of people that I was exposed to books or CDs on back then when we had CDs. I had a 5-hour drive one way, one time a month. So I was just consuming as much personal development. I didn't even know personal development was a thing until I got involved into that industry. And I got introduced to people like Jim Rohn and just all these great philosophers of how to think and audit our thoughts. Why do we think the way that we think? Because at the end of the day, we are all products of our, unsolicited products of our environment, right? Like how we grew up. If our folks have a negative mindset or just demeanor, we're more inclined to have that, right? Who are the friends that we're around with? And when I looked at my friends in high school, nothing against them, but they didn't have anything that I wanted. Their parents didn't have anything that I wanted. And it was like, I had to be intentional about putting myself in those environments. And when I realized that started to pay off, and sometimes I had to pay money to do it. Sometimes I had to serve my way into do it to get a seat at the table, right? Like sometimes you got to pay to get a seat at the table. Sometimes you got to serve water at the table. The point is you're at the table and you can start to glean off of and just pull these little nuggets of wisdom and understanding how people actually achieved quote unquote success, right? And success is different for everybody. But that's really what started my entrepreneurial journey until, I graduated high school. I moved up here to Minnesota. My intent then was still like, go to school, get it. I mean, I was making, a few $1,000 a month so with my network marketing company, which for a high schooler, that's not bad, right? But I just intended to be, I just thought like still the best way to create wealth was to become a doctor, right? Like that's just what I thought my intent was. So I went to Normandale Community College there in Bloomington. And I started, I was personal fitness training. And I started to actually gain some real traction from a sales standpoint with these nutritional supplements, these Herbalife supplements. But the thing that I never liked about that, man, was that in any industry, I mean, even in your industry, it's like, sometimes it's like you get into it, or an insurance salesman, you get into it. And the first thing they probably ask you to do is like, well, who do you know? Who's your friends and family? Like all of mine had either drank the Kool-Aid already, or they freaking hated people that drank the Kool-Aid, right? Like that, like it's every family dinner was like, let's talk about Herbalife, or let's, not go to the family dinner because I ain't doing it, right? And so I needed a way to reach cold traffic. Like I wanted to talk to people that didn't have any preconceived notions or ideas about me as a person or the company. And so that was my first understanding of marketing, of like, how do I get somebody to pick up the phone and call me? Because back then we didn't really even have internet, at least not to the level we have today. And I started to place these little ads in these papers. They literally said, we pay you to lose weight. 7 words, and with a phone number. And my phone rang off the hook. And I started retailing. I was selling between like 10 and 15 grand a month in vitamins, these nutritional supplements. The problem with that was I was like working my tail off, right? As we were just talking prior to this, like it was so much work on my end. It wasn't worth the squeeze at the end. It was like, yeah, I had my BMW at the age of 19. I thought I was really something. I thought the heck with school. Why would I go 6 figures in debt when I can make 6 figures right now? But I was working 18, 19 hours a day doing this. And I quickly burnt out and thought, this isn't what I want to do for the rest of my life. As much as I loved the idea that, being that independent contractor in sales, they always tell you like, you earn what you're worth. And because if you want to make more, you just work more. Or your earning is uncapped. That's a good one that they would always pitch. Like you can earn as much as you want. And I never bought into that based upon the amount of time in a day. I was like, I can only do so many presentations before I have to, sleep, right? I just have to recharge. So I never bought into that. And what I ended up doing is going from, selling these $30 supplements to higher ticketed products. And I jumped from siding and windows to business valuations to just higher and higher commissionable products that allowed me to make more money. But still there was that ceiling. Could I be a manager? Yes, but it wasn't like exponential growth that I experienced. And I was searching one day after like a failed business venture. I was 24 at the time. Again, life is pretty good for me, working hard, but I was searching at night and I came across this ad. It says, we pay you, or excuse me, it said, I'll work 3 days a week and make $10,000. And I thought, yeah, right. But I had to inquire upon it. Like that's a pretty good deal, right?
Yeah, pretty solid deal, right?
Yeah. So I inquired it, and this guy, it didn't really like, I didn't grasp a hold of what he was saying until I actually got to come out to one of his events. And he was talking about selling one to many groups of people. And it rocked my world. I drove down to Mankato where this guy was holding this dinner seminar. And I walked in, there's like 20, 25 people in the room. He did a presentation, like not a good one, really. But at the end of it, he got 7 people to give an appointment to meet with him the next day to ultimately present their price and close the deal. And out of that, he made a few sales, and it rocked my world. I was like, holy cow, if this guy can do that, one presentation, he only met with the people that cared enough.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna get filthy rich doing this thing. So I took some of his concepts of what he was selling, added some of my own. And at this point in time, I kind of skipped over the failed business venture. But at this point in time, I was broke, sleeping on my sister's couch. I had $673 in my bank account. My wife was pregnant at the time. I mean, why not?
Things are going
failed
well.
Business, you're broke. Why don't we get pregnant?
Yeah. Well, it makes sense. That's what everybody does, right?
Yeah. It's like, I need to have a better story. Let's just throw some more stuff on this. So,
you knew you were going to be on podcasts.
I knew it.
And you're like, I got to have a great story, right?
Exactly. So what I did though, is I had a credit card. Thank God. I paid for some marketing dollars and sent some invitations out, had a few people show up. I made a couple sales. And what I did though, I didn't just go out and buy, diapers, which I probably should have, but I had a few months buffer before we had a baby coming. I kept investing that back into the company, into my next series of events. And that was in July of 2011 when I hosted my first event. By the end of that year, 6 months later, we had done 2.1 million in sales. The whole next year, I was like, okay, this thing's working. Now, can I hire and train people to do this system? By the end of 2012, I had 26 crews across 38 states that were selling. We'd done 12 million that year. And that's when I was able to step back and work on my business versus continually working in it. And from there, it was like, okay, the system works. That was the big thing for me. Like, the product was irrelevant. I didn't give a rip about what we were selling. I still don't give a rip about anything that I sell to this day. Now, morally and ethically, they have to be great sound products. But it's hard to get passionate about a walk-in bathtub. I have a walk-in bathtub company, right? Like, I don't care. Yes, people should bathe safely. They should feel good when they soak. But if you think about it, like, do you really get excited about the products that you're selling? If the answer is no, it's okay. Okay, I want people to know that, because I've never been so excited about what I get to go out and sell that day. But what I get excited about is the ability to provide for my family and fulfill the God-given vision that I know has been placed within me. But knowing that it takes work and it takes money to make that happen. So if I can identify a need, right? Look in the marketplace, anybody, what is a need that's out there right now? The problem is people don't buy what they need, they buy what they want. So all I have to do is connect the dots. Like, if a need is a walk-in bathtub, how do I get somebody to want it? And can I create that in an emotional experience for them to ultimately make that decision, right? Whether it be yes or no, at least they make a decision. And so
that's so important though. I want to just rewind a little bit with what you said. Like, a lot of people think they have to love what they sell. You have to absolutely love it. You have to have a passion for it. And sure, it's great if you like it and all that kind of stuff. But what's more important is what you just said. Is it a need, and do people want it, or know that? Like, how have you made it so they know they want it? And then is it, of course, like you said, is it ethical? Is it safe? Is it, is it something you can actually put your name behind, right? That's really important too. But yeah, is it a need? Like, if it's not a need, probably don't need to sell it. But you don't have to absolutely love it. Quite frankly, you don't even have to use it yourself.
Right. Yeah. I don't have a walk-in bathtub in my house. Right. But I mean, that's just one example, but even it's a need, because I could think of a lot of products out there that people don't need, like just turn on the infomercials at night, but they want it. So they buy it anyways, stupidly. Like,
they think they need it.
Right. Exactly. So when I would, just to kind of recover that, like, I want to sell something that's going to bring value to somebody that they're going to want and love, not down the road.
Yeah.
that's my idea of like identify a need. And as entrepreneurs, which I believe everybody on the planet is an entrepreneur. If you look at the root word of it, it just means to undertake. Like if you're willing to undertake the task at hand, scan the marketplace, scan what's going on in the world, society, what's going on, and how can you identify a need, but always bring your passion with you, right? So many people try to be, if anybody's told you like, just follow your passion, you'll never work a day in your life, bull crap. That is not true at all. Most people's passions will leave them broke on the side of the road, right? Like I can probably go downtown Minneapolis and find 3 people passionate about doing crack that they're broke, right? Because that's their passion in life. Like, no, if you have a God-given passion in your life, look for the opportunity that's going to fund that passion.
Yeah. Right.
Because bring your passion with you, but find the opportunities, create the want to fill that need. And then now you can scale and leverage that thing that's going to allow you to fund your passion. Like my business partner, his wife, her passion is rocking babies. She ain't going to get paid doing that. Or if she does, she's going to be living in the trailer park doing that. Right.
And it's going to be a little weird.
Yeah. Right. But if she has a business that's producing great wealth that allows her to have the time to do that, have, properties maybe to do that. Like that's the idea behind always bring your passion with you. And don't be chasing your passion, bring it with you. So
I love that. That's so important for people to understand and know. Cause you're right. You got to do what you're passionate about. Well, look, there's a lot of starving artists out there. There's a lot of people, like you said, like just they think they got to do what they're passionate about. No, bring the passion into what you're doing.
Exactly, man. And that's just, and this isn't stuff that I just came out the womb knowing. Like this is a lot of failure and understanding, thinking that I'm passionate about fitness and I wanted to do that. But I realized I wasn't going to create the money that I needed unless I was training, Britney Spears at the time. Right. It's like, I had to look for other opportunities to create that revenue source, to create that wealth that allows me to do things like we do now with our King's Council coaching program. So I'll put a button on this, man. Like I created the social dynamic selling, multiple different companies, as you mentioned. Every single one of those that we've started has hit 7 figures. A couple of them we hit 8 figures within the first 9 months of every one that we've started. That's what's done the 9 figures in sales here over the last decade. But the real point of that is it has zero to do with me. I could put a monkey in my position and short of him, not following the system, anybody can do this. Okay. It's because it's high ticket sales from a dinner seminar model. Financial advisors have been doing this. We do this for syndicates all the time, finding accredited investors, filling them in the room, putting them in a room that are interested in multi-family investments. Like they're like, oh, great, right? Or people that need walk-in bathtubs. We have doctors that do this with regenerative medicine space. So all over the board, he who controls the customer controls everything. And that's been my philosophy. The problem is they get so excited about their product and their service. They just think people are going to be knocking at their door, which is that's not true. If you build it, they do not come. You've got to have a sales and a marketing system in place that continually provides a continual flow of new leads, people to talk to, and ultimately sales and prospects. I transitioned into just consulting companies on how to do that for in 2016, which has been great. We still operate that. Again, a system is in place that we teach people how to sell through dinner seminars, how to market, how to fill rooms. But that ultimately still, as much as that was fun and financially has been great for us. A few years ago, we bought a home on the lake here. It's like, you'd think everything would be great. My wife and I are sitting on the couch downstairs, and I just had like this feeling of unfulfillment of like, is this really what I'm supposed to do? Like go make money? And don't get me wrong, money's a wonderful thing, right? You can do amazing things with it, right? You can do terrible things with it too. The point is it's a thing, it's a tool. It comes down to your heart, the issue of your heart and the stewardship that you have. And I knew that God had given me the ability to create money, right? Money can be created. Heck, our government just creates it every day on the printing press. Another topic, but
Yeah.
it can be created if the value is there. But that wasn't what really got me excited. I wanted to actually teach these principles and take people through this understanding of this philosophy of how things work from a sales standpoint, marketing standpoint, and that evolved into more so coaching people into what, again, we know as the King's Council. And that's really been my focus here over the last year and a half or so, is teaching people. So there's consulting and there's coaching.
Yep.
You know, they're two different things. Most people don't understand. Coaches, some of the best coaches are terrible at shooting free throws, right? But they can coach people through it, because the best coach is going to be able to ask the right questions to pull out the answer that's already deep within you, right? And then there's consulting, that is, this is how you do it, when you do it, why you do it, and we're going to like consult through this process we'll all be successful. What I believe we've really done with the King's Council is married the two, because I'm not interested. One of my philosophies is I've never hired a coach. This is just me personally. Okay. This doesn't have to be for everybody, but I've never hired a coach that hasn't gone before me and done what I'm looking to do. Right. Like if I'm going to hire a fitness trainer, I've seen some 300-pound fitness trainers at Lifetime Fitness, like,
yeah.
And they're booked.
Yeah.
They're slammed.
Yeah.
They're with clients all the time. And I'm like, what are you, do you think that you like, do you eat your own cooking? Obviously a little too much of it, right? Like, sorry, Todd, but that's my philosophy. And I'm never going to take financial advice from somebody that's not doing it. Like, there's always, especially crypto world, oh, well, you should have did this or you should have that. Like, are you doing that? Well, it's like, okay, well, shut up, right? Like, there's a lot of people with opinions out there, but look at the fruit in their life. Again, if people are going to coach you on anything, are they doing it? Have they proven that model? Yeah. And that's what we do within our coaching program is we've married this model of, we're going to be able to coach and extract info. And if it's something that I've done, I'm going to be able to consult with you, or I'm going to resource you out to somebody that I know that's already proven that concept, so we can all grow together and become, more and more successful together. Again, success means a lot of different things to different people. It's not just about money, right? Money ain't everything. Unless you don't have enough of it, then it quickly becomes our everything. But when you have enough of it, then it allows us to really focus on like what truly, truly matters in our own life.
Yeah. And that's the power of being able to, create that wealth, is that now I feel like a lot of people, money becomes like they're a slave to it. Mm-hmm. When you actually have it, when you actually obtain it, I feel like you no longer have, like it's no longer there. Right. It's a tool. Like you said, it's just a tool.
Yeah.
Money's great, but it's just a tool. Like that's all. And if you have a lot of it, you have a lot of tools.
Yeah.
And you're able to do what you want, and you're able to create what you want, and also bad things, but hopefully good things.
Right.
We want money to be with the right people, not the wrong people.
Absolutely. And that's the shift, man. 2 seconds on this, because you I get excited about this. You said, people are a slave to money. That's the shift that my focus really is with the King's Council. I mean, we are a faith-based organization. Yeah. And when you said, the Bible tells us that you cannot serve two masters. You cannot serve both God and money, right? Like, so we've all heard that if we've read any scripture or been to any, broke church that's out there. Because most of them are, because I think they really get this philosophy wrong. They talk about, they're only talking about like, well, rich people can't get into heaven. It's like, that ain't true, right? It's hard. It says it's hard. It's harder to go through the needle, through the camel through the needle of or the eye of a needle, right? But also that means that it's doable. It can be done, right? So that's where my brain goes immediately. And I know that when I look at this, if I can't serve two masters, how do I know who I'm serving? Like, how do I know this? Like, because most people think that entrepreneurs we're money hungry. We only care about making money. And it's like, we're somehow the bad people in this, right? And it's always the broke people that have this mindset, coincidentally. And when I look at that scripture, it's like, how do we know who we're serving? And it really boils down to who is dictating the decision that we make.
Yeah.
What's dictating the decision? So I'm telling you, as much as you have to work, you got to work to make money. This concept of being an employee is not in the Bible anywhere. Okay. And this is how I base my life off of. You don't have to, listeners, but I would suggest you take a look at it because it's pretty proven. There's no concept of an employee in the Bible, right? So if you're leaving the people that you so-called love, because ask anybody this question, what do you love? It's like, well, I love my family. Which is usually a BS answer because it's what's supposed to be told, right? But instead, where are they spending the majority of their time? They're leaving their family to go serve somebody else, their boss, to go make money. Yet they're saying that I'm serving God in this manner. It's completely it's backwards, right? So ask your question, who am I serving?
By the way, the money they make, they're spending it because they feel guilty if they have too much of it.
Yep.
So they spend it all instead of doing something productive and good that's going to actually create something valuable in this world, which is crazy.
Creating it. I mean, the parable of the talents, another very popular parable. It's like the one that gets 1 talent, one gets 2, and the other gets 5. And then what's always left out of those, it's like God says, to each according to their ability. So if I have the ability, I want the dude that has the 5 ability. I don't want the guy that's got 1. I'm just going to bury it, right? The dude who's just scared and not going to create more with it. Yet the one who had 2 doubled it. The one who had 5 doubled it according to their ability. And our ability in anything that we do is based on 3 things. The availability, like, am I going to make myself available? Like, all right, God, I'm here. Use me on this earth. Am I going to be responsible? So the responsibility to steward that well. And then the accountability, right? Because we're going to be account to everything that we do, whether we think it or not. We are accountable to someone, right? And if I'm going to make myself available, I'm going to take on the responsibility and have the accountability to do it. Then we're going to be given the ability to do more and create more. Yeah. So I get a little excited. I could talk about this for hours, but back to the serving God and money, the only way that I've really known how I know that I'm not serving money in anything that I do is through generosity and through giving it away, right? If you want to know if you're serving, because even if we think we're stewarding money well, this is where a lot of Christians, I believe, even get this concept wrong. We're stewarding well because we're looking for the cheapest. We're going through the penny savers. We're looking for the cheapest thing possible. And usually it's the crappiest thing possible too. But we're saving money. Why? Who's dictating that decision? Money is, right? Versus I could go to Hobby Lobby, which is a very faith-filled, professed owner, the Green family there, of like, yeah, maybe it's $2 more, but if my mindset is I'm going to sow into them, I'm going to steward into them because I know they're going to take that dollar and they're going to multiply it more and more, that's something that I believe God's going to bless. That's the kingdom economy that we coach on within the King's Council, versus who's dictating the decision that I make? Is it God or is it money? And that's who you know who you're serving in those situations. So sorry, I can go on a tangent with that, Todd.
No, I think it's great. I always I think a lot of stuff gets lost in translation too. Like when you just said, rich people can't go to heaven, the eye of the needle, whatever. Yeah. What is a rich person, and how does the Bible actually speak of a rich person? Because when you look back at how things used to be, you had this. A lot of people that had money, that were wealthy, were kind of rulers over people. And so was it just rich people? Was it because they had money, or was it because of how they acted? Is it because of their status and they thought they were better than everybody else, and they thought they had it all figured out? So there's a lot that's lost in translation, in my opinion, with the Bible, and we get confused. Just like that, you got the what's the one that the love of money is the root of all evil. No, it says it's not that you what is it?
So people often say money is the root of all kinds
of
evil.
Money is the root of, it's the love of money, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a big misconception there. The money is not evil. Money's like we already said, it's a tool. Like tools are not evil. You're telling me the hammer that I have in my garage is evil? The skill saw that I got in my garage is somehow gonna be evil,
right.
and I'm not gonna get to heaven because I've got a hammer?
Right.
Like, no, that's not the case. Like it makes no sense. So let's actually, I like this topic. And it's a little bit outside of my scope because we don't, I mention God and stuff in my podcast, but not a lot. But I think there's a lot of people that listen to this that do have faith, whether they're Christians, whether they're Jews or whatever. But let's talk about money and faith a little bit. I mean, I guess we already have been. But let's like dive into, when you're looking at your coaching program, the King's Council, and you guys are, I'm assuming, diving into some of these, like, we got this crazy mindset that somehow we make money that's bad. And are there any like strategies, or is it just kind of talking through it, or what's your, I guess, take on this whole thing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of strategies involved with it. I mean, we could sit here and come up with probably 4 different businesses here in the next 15 minutes if we wanted to, and start making money doing it. Yeah. So usually we're going to talk about like, what is it that, if somebody comes in, they have an idea, because we birth a lot of businesses out of our coaching company. But no matter, and this is what I love to dial into, how we base everything off of. And I didn't know that I was doing this for the first 33 years of my life, man. This is something that has been revealed to me through trial and error. And then obviously just when I got serious about diving into the scriptures, and like, holy cow, this is like, we have a playbook of life. And I mean, you don't have to be a Christian to agree with me on any of this stuff, but I'm telling you, it's in the Bible, and it works every single time. And until it doesn't work, I'm going to be very confident in that. Like, it's a model. Like our life is an open book test through the Word of God. Now, you would mention, like, sometimes we don't really, especially the versions, like you can read King James Version or NIV, and it's like, what the Message, it's like, I don't even know what the heck I'm talking. Like,
and it's all been translated from a totally different language anyway.
Absolutely.
In the first place. So.
But I still, whatever the words necessarily are, maybe they have been transcribed or not, and differently, like there's kingdom principles that are laws, right? No different than I can drop this pen, it's going to fall. Gravity. That's a law. There are spiritual laws out there, like the law of sowing and reaping, right? Yeah. Whatever you sow, you're going to reap. So if you're sowing negative thoughts, or you're talking poorly on somebody, that's what you're reaping. So when you've got that fruit in your life, don't go look at the mirror first. Right now, this whole idea of like, good things happen to, or bad things happen to good people. This is, again, none of us are good people, right? We can give away all our money, we can do everything with this, but at the end of the day, we're bad people. That's just what has happened since the beginning of time, right? And so,
yeah, we all have faults. I don't care who you are. We all
exactly.
have faults.
And from the beginning of time, God created Adam to work. Like, he was there to steward the garden. I have so many stories of gardens and how that can relate into our own life. But the very, very first thing that I coach people on is the 7-day of creation, God-given biblical template of how to do life, right? And so God created out of nothing, right? Like, there was nothing. Okay. And the very first thing that God did was he spoke into existence, let there be light, right? So whether you're starting a business or you're starting a relationship, it doesn't matter what it is. If you approach this 7-day template, I can promise you it'll work. But we serve a God of structure and order. Okay. So I can't rush to day 5. And what I mean by that is day 5 is when God created us as human beings. So there were 4 days prior to that in which he had to create the vegetation, the food to actually eat, right? If he created us and then created that, what would we have eaten?
Yep.
Right. So it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? The chicken, Okay. I'm telling you, God created chickens and then they had eggs. Okay. So that's the approach that we have to take. So when we talk about day one, God said, let there be light. What happened then is he spoke energy into the world, into the existence. This is why the words that we speak are so powerful and are so overlooked in all facets of life, right? Like the power of life and death is in our tongue. Okay, especially if you have kiddos, what you're speaking over them, or even if they're not even around, the words that you're speaking on them creates an energy in this world that is from the beginning of time. Okay, because we are created in God's image. He said, let there be light. The problem with this, most people think light as like the sun. Yeah. Right? Like right now outside it's light out. So I think it's because of the sun. God didn't create the sun until day 4. So what was he doing in that? He said, let there be light, because also in scripture, I read that God is light, which is a totally like, what the heck? So when he said, let there be light, he cast his energy and vision into this world. Okay, out of nothing, he created. So vision is not sight. Vision is the mindset that we have in our own mind about what we're doing. So if you're starting a business, what's the vision for the business? Okay, if you're courting somebody right now, right? If you're just on Tinder, like probably don't find your wife on Tinder, right? But maybe if you're with your wife, you're trying to find your wife, what's the vision for it? What's the vision? Do you want kids? Do you not want kids? Like, this is stuff that you have to talk out. And on day 2, scripture tells us that God created the firmament. I didn't even know what this word meant, but he separated the heavens from the earth. He created the atmosphere, is what we know it as today, right? And so when I look at that, like, what's the atmosphere? What's the culture that we're putting ourselves in? Who are we surrounding ourselves with? Are they people that are that like mindseted that I started to surround myself with at the age of 15, right? Am I listening to amazing podcasts like yours? Am I consuming content, reading the right books? What's the culture that I'm putting? If you're running your business, you've got the vision. Are your employees happy now? Right? Do they hit the, like, punch out the moment it hits 5 o'clock? Yeah. Like, or are they excited to get there? Yeah. It can have people bought into the vision. Okay. And then day 3 is structure. I don't want to take all the time doing this, Todd, but it's structure. Day 4 is order. Okay. So structure would be like, do we have a plan now? Is there a playbook to this life? Okay, well, that's where God created the vegetation. So there was going to be oxygen for us to breathe, photosynthesis, chlorophyll, chlorophyll, right? Whatever. He had to create the plan. And then he created the sun and the moon, the order. He said, night happened and then day happened. Night happened and then day happened. Day 5, then he finally created us, right? Or excuse me, he created momentum. I actually said this wrong earlier. Correct me on that, man. Day 5 is movement. He created all the critters of the earth, right? Which is like in business, it's like, okay, we've got sales coming in, things are happening. Day 6, he created us. Okay, that's relationship. And from a business standpoint, that's like when we can scale our business, because our great commission is to go forth and multiply, to take dominion on this earth. And that's from whether it's a business. If we're happy just making $2 million a year in our business, why? If you're happy just making $100,000 in your business, why? We are called to do as much as we can, to go forth, to take dominion. So we're the ones that limit our own minds, our abilities. Okay, we are the ones that do that to ourselves. And then day 7 is the actual the Sabbath, the day of rest. And this is one that gets missed a lot, especially by entrepreneurs. Okay, because the signs that I used to have on my walls said grind and execute and hustle, right? And that's what I did for a decade of my life. Like, I worked and I worked and I worked and I worked. Okay, and it produced money for a period of time. Okay, but every time I would have a huge spike, it seems like I would just do something that I would have a failure, right? A quote unquote failure, right? And I would start another business. I would start another business, had great successes, but I realized I wasn't actually taking the time, because it's interesting. The Sabbath wasn't created for God. It's not like God created.
Yeah, he didn't need to rest.
He didn't get tired, right? Yeah. Like, he's like, oh man, this has been a lot of hard work. I need to take a day. No, he created it after us, for us. Yeah. And that's just a time in which not only, yes, we need to rest, recover, recuperate, but it's also a time in which we get to honor God. And actually commit to his plan, because the Bible tells us to seek first the kingdom of God in all things that we do, whether obviously the dollar, the first 10%, the tithe, no matter what, which again, kingdom principle. It's the only thing in the Bible that God actually says to test him on. And I promise you, at the age of 24, when I actually did this, that was the year I made my first million. Okay. But it took me making the commitment. I didn't get money and then become generous, because that's not generosity. I started to become generous with the little that I had. And then it just started to come and come in and come in and come in and come in.
I think so many people think with being generous, like they can't be generous until they make the money because they don't have money. Like I don't have money to be generous with.
Right.
Yeah, you do. Like 10% of $100 is still 10%.
Absolutely.
Because the amount is irrelevant. To give them, yeah, they did. You don't have to give $1 million away. If you give $10 away, that's okay. That's being generous, as long as it's a relative, amount, right? Now, if you give $10 away and you made $1 million that year, yeah, you're being stingy and you're not being generous. But
right. And it's also just a tithe in itself isn't even generosity. That's obedience.
Yeah.
If you don't have to abide to the Bible. Okay. Yeah. But I'm telling you, this is what I subscribe to, and this is what works. 10% is an act of obedience. Okay. So if I make $100, $10 is going back to the local church. That's a tithe. Okay. Above and beyond is generosity. Yeah. Okay. So if I make 10 million bucks, $1 million is going right away to the church. Above and beyond is generosity. Okay. Going back to the parable of the talents, God gives each according to their ability. Okay. I read a statistic. They called the tithe, the average tithe here in the United States is like 2.5%, which that doesn't even make sense, because that's not a tithe. The tithe is 1/10. Okay. So what they're saying is 2.5% of people that go to church, that's the amount of money that they're giving. And it's like, no wonder we are freaking broke as jokes Christians. Why would anybody want to be a Christian? We have no fruit in our life that people want, a select few, right? Where if we just got back to these kingdom principles, I can promise you, and this is what King's Council is about, and what we're shifting in the marketplace here is kingdom principles. We're going to be speaking these and teaching these philosophies, kingdom-backed principles that work every freaking time if we actually do them. They're spiritual laws, man. I could go on and on with the 7 days, but
I love it. That's good stuff. I love you mentioned go forth and multiply, and that's something that I have to always think about. I've been asked, like, when is enough? My parents actually asked me. I think my dad, he was the one. He's like, when's enough? And I said, well, enough. I don't know. Tell me when all the problems in the world are solved. That's when enough is enough. Like, go forth and multiply. God didn't say go forth, do some stuff, and then just sit on the beach and drink Mai Tais all day.
Right, exactly.
No, go forth and multiply. Well, what are you doing? You've got these God-given abilities. You got these abilities. So why not utilize them? That's actually, in my opinion, for me, again, it's my faith. So for me, it's I'm sinning if I'm not actually truly living up to my abilities. I can't remember. Maybe it was even on your podcast, but somebody said, and it really hit me, is they said, what would it be like if you got to heaven many years from now, you end up dying, you go to heaven, and God sits there and he goes, I'm going to play this clip, and I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember exactly how it was said, but so I'm going to play you this clip. This is what your life would have been like had you actually lived up to your abilities. Yeah. This is the difference you could have made. These are the people you could have affected. Yeah. Like, holy crap. Like, oh, like, wow. So I don't want that. I don't want the clip to be played to say, wow, this is what you could have done. I want to, God to go, you went forth and you multiplied, you brought my kingdom to with you on earth, and that it's a different mindset.
Yeah, it is. And that's the what spurs me on is I believe, first off, retirement is not anywhere in the Bible, again, right? It's people that have this mindset of I'm going to work for 40 years and then retire and sip Mai Tais, like you said. They're the ones dead a year or two after that, because they've lost any sort of desire to do anything, their identity, right? So you got to have, what your identity is, the core values of who you are, whose you are, why you're doing what you're doing. And then we do that until the day we die. Now it may slow down.
Who put the timeline on us to say, hey, by the way, when you hit 65 or whatever age it is that you think you're going to retire, when you hit 65, you're kind of worthless and you're not going to do anything for the rest of their life. So just go and, hang out and vacate. Wait a second. I want to be productive. I want to be the 95-year-old dude that goes to a closing table and buys a 250 unit apartment complex. And when they're like, what are you going to do with this thing? Well, what do you mean? I'm going to add value to it and I'm going to sell it in 5 years so I can buy the next one.
Absolutely.
Like that's how I want my mindset to be. I want to continue to make a difference to the day I die. Like put me in the ground.
Yes.
That's when I'm stopping making a difference here on earth. Right.
Yes, exactly, man. And you said, who put a timeline on that? I'll tell you, I mean, we could do another podcast for this. The Industrial Revolution, the desire, the need to create employees, which is when the traditional school system, as we know it today, was put into effect. Up until then, you didn't go to school until 12th grade. The latest was like 7th grade. And then you had a book on how to build a business, right? Look at throughout the Bible, there's four types of people. There's masters, there's slaves, there's laborers, and there's servants.
Yeah.
Okay. There are no employees. There's no retired people. That's who lived on the earth back then. We as a society have created this how to become an employee, right? And like, what's the safe thing to do as we're being controlled by the powers that be. And I'm not standing for it. Like this is the movement, the mission that we're on is to teach people to be creative again. It's okay. And most people think, well, I'm just not creative. I don't know how to be an entrepreneur. Yes, you are. You were created in God's image, who was a creator. Therefore, you are taught now not how to do it over the last however many years you've been on this earth. And that's the idea of being able to pull that information, to extract it out of people, to become who we truly were called to be on this earth, as you mentioned, man. So let's go, dude.
I think a lot of us too, just living in fear and not, it's easy. It's maybe, and I would actually argue that it's not, but it's easier, right, to conform to society. It's easier to work that 9-to-5 job and do what everybody else is doing. I actually, again, like I would argue that that's not easier. That's not the easiest path. That's probably the most difficult path. And that's the path of like the least, I don't know, just what's the word I'm thinking? Just the least
resistance, maybe the passively least resistant.
It is, but I just like the least fulfillment, I guess. That's what
for sure.
Kind of trying to say is,
Yeah. And that idea of being safe, like that's like, look at what happened during COVID, dude. When COVID went down, I lost a ton of money on marketing and stuff that I had out. But the first thing I did was head on a swivel. What's the next opportunity? What can I do to provide value versus my employer telling me to stay home, wear a mask, get vaccinated before I can come back to work? No, that to me is a slave. I ain't being that for anybody. I want to be in control of my destiny and destination and for my family, because that's who we are called to be, not reliant on somebody providing me a paycheck, telling me when I can go to the bathroom or not go to the bathroom, or like, that ain't life. So if you're doing that right now, I would encourage you to look at other things and other options, maybe get with Todd and figure out how to create some other revenue sources to get you out of that environment.
Man, I think I'm going to have you back on, because I got like so many more things I want to talk about. Well, we didn't even get into the dynamic selling system. Like we didn't cover like any of that stuff, because just like there's so much more to talk about, but unfortunately, like I'm already over our time limit, by the way. So I apologize for keeping you so long as it is, but I think we're both very passionate about a lot of the same stuff. So
absolutely
good.
I'll be back on, man. That'd be great.
That'll be fun to have you back on. All right. So for time, let's wrap up. Okay. So I got a couple last questions I want to ask you real quick. You've already mentioned it, but I'm in this time here where I love that you talked about the generosity, and I've been semi-intentional about giving, but not as much as I want to be. And so I've been asking this question to all my guests to kind of just feel out what other people are doing and just to understand. And I think it's just helping me. So this is a selfish question for me. How do you like to give back? What do you like to do? What's your kind of, do you have a certain passion, or is it a lot of different things? I'm sure, but
Man, a lot of different things, I guess, but really part of the King's Council, while it is a paid coaching program,
yeah,
before we even started this interview, we were talking about our, like this last year. It's like, I said, I don't think I've worked more in this last year and made so little. However, the people, the community, the tribe that we've built, they're the ones that are producing wealth, and they're the ones that are growing through this. So that's what I love. I love just talking, getting on these podcasts and teaching these principles that I think are they're not given. Like, I mean, I didn't grow up with love my dad, but I didn't grow up with somebody that spoke life over me or spoke, creative ideas into me. It was just something that I had to be intentional about doing. And so that's my heart, is like providing that for those that want it. Right. But the problem is you got to want it. I can't make anybody do anything, but if you want it, squeaky wheel always get in the grease in my book. So if people get around us in the community, like that's the idea of like, I don't even feel like it's giving back, but it's a way that we can grow together, because it's only lonely at the top if you don't bring anybody with you, man. And I want to take as many people with us as possible.
You know, part of the beauty about giving back is you get so much in return. Like, that's a fulfilling life, right? When you start giving back at such a high level, like that's fulfillment right there. Not only are you affecting other people positively, which is of course the goal and objective, but it provides so much for you. Not only a fulfillment, it just like it fills your life. Like, it fills everything about your journey up. So it's beautiful.
Absolutely.
All right. What's favorite book? Business, whatever.
Favorite book? I'm not going to say the Bible because that's a cheesy answer. I'll go with The Science of Success.
Nice. All right. Never read that. I'll have to pick that one up.
Changed my life, man. There's some wacky stuff in there. I mean, some wacky stuff in my opinion. But the principles in there are, whether this guy knows it or not, a lot of them are kingdom principles. So I can't even think of his name off the top of my head, but The Science of Success. So
sweet. All right. So last question before we wrap up. What are your 3 pillars of wealth creation?
3 pillars of wealth creation. Obviously, investing into yourself that's proven time and time again. There's not a greater asset to invest into, right? Like we've always hear, pay yourself first. The way that I pay it, I'm not just like paying myself to pay my mortgage. I'm always looking at who can I get around and be around. Even now, I'm still spending 6 figures a year in coaching. Like, I need to be coached so that I can learn and continually coach. So invest in yourself. Wealth creation for me is also, I have insurance products and real estate. So myself, insurance products, real estate. Is that?
Yeah. Love it, man.
Perfect.
All right.
Well, I do not have a 401k. I do not have any of that. That's, if anybody's wondering that, like, that's seriously where money is in assets and insurance products. So cash flowing assets, right? Which I believe that's like what you're about, Todd, like multifamily. I don't want to just create money, put money over there and let it sit. Let's create some cash flow here while it's growing, and then ultimately have a larger payday that I can reinvest into having more cash flow, right? Like, that's what I've done with all of my businesses. Cash flow for me right now is certainly my businesses, but I'm taking that money and some of it has to be put back into marketing, but I'm then investing in it into other vehicles that create more cash flow. That's when we say money is created, it's a tool, right? And right now, some of us may have a freaking pickaxe, right? You don't have a big one, but you can create a big one. It just takes the principles of sowing and reaping over time.
Awesome. Love it. Well, look, Rylee, this has been a blast. I've really appreciated you being on the show. Tons of value. I love your energy, love your philosophies. So it's really been a lot of fun. How can our listeners get in touch with you, learn more about what you got going on, connect, learn about King's Council, all that kind of stuff?
And probably, I'm on Instagram and things like that. But if I talked about the 7 day of creation, man, and I always like to give this. Sometimes it's hard to, you can read the Bible again, but depending upon which translation, it's like, I don't really know what he's saying here. I've created it's like a cheat sheet essentially over the 7 days of creation, how that can be applied into your business, your relationship, whatever it is. So if people were to text me the number 7, it can be just the number 7, or you can type out SEVEN, text me to 727-472-3860. Again, 727-472-3860. And you will get that template automatically sent back to you so you can review that and see how you can apply that into your everyday life.
Awesome. We'll put that in the show notes. Really appreciate it. Again, thanks so much for joining us, and you have a fantastic rest of the day.
Absolutely. Thanks, Todd.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. I appreciate you being a loyal listener. I would love to have you go on to our Facebook page and subscribe, give us a thumbs up, go on to iTunes or wherever you listen and give us a rating and review. Don't forget to subscribe. Your rating and review just helps us push this out to more and more people and continue to grow our audience and hopefully positively affect a ton of people out there that really need this and want this. So the other thing I've got for you is a free ebook on my website. So go on to venturedproperties.com, and download our free ebook on real estate and on syndication. And I've got some data points in there, some really good stuff for you. So I'd love to have you take a look at that. It's free. I'm not expecting anything from it. And also, look, if you want some help in multifamily, want some help learning, growing, getting your business off the ground, I would love to talk to you about what it would look like to work with me potentially and see if that's a good fit. So you can go to coachwithdex.com and check that out, and we can definitely have a call. Thanks a lot for listening. You make it a fantastic rest of the day. I'll catch you on the next episode.